is so good.
I'm loving it. Oh, don't read it. You read the back?
I didn't, no. I just turned it. I didn't look at it, I swear. I swear!
Hi, I'm Dan Radcliffe and you're watching Unofficial Quafflecast. Who needs the intro? Well, here it is.
We do, because it's Dan Radcliffe.
Hi, I'm Dan Radcliffe and you are watching Unofficial Quafflecast.
Hi! Welcome back to Quafflecast. This is episode part 2 of my story for Hannah. Hannah West and the Canary Quill. If you haven't watched video number 1, you should watch it now, because otherwise this will make little to no sense. Otherwise, enjoy. Thanks for joining us back in our little nook. We're going to read the final 3 chapters of this story.
Yay!
Chapter 4. A signature. I'll just say, where we left off, we don't remember. She'd been in History of Magic class and something a bit going funny with her quill, and she tried to dip the nib in the ink and it spilled all over her. So Professor Binns told her to go to the bathroom and wash it off. That's it.
The Muggle way. You wouldn't
The Muggle way, yeah. And it's quite a way away to get there. Okay. Chapter 4. A signature. She meandered down stony corridors, naming the suits of armour as she went. Geoffrey, Glenn, Patricia, Hubert, and to a particularly lopsided, dented fellow with a half-hanging vizard and a spear hole in his chest. Spitter. She passed Professor Senatrix's office, which was open a crack, and as she did, she overheard an unusual, deep and bassy voice. "And you're certain he can't stop it?" "Our headmaster," repeated the squeaky treble of Phira Senatrix, "has far more pressing matters on his hands. A little diversion in teaching methods will hardly cause a stir." "Well, if you're sure." "Hayden, I'm sure." There was a short pause, and Hannah's heart began to pump. Had they realised she was eavesdropping? Perhaps there was a secret mirror she hadn't seen, and that was why the door was open a crack, but the voices continued. "Could I use a quill, Phira?" I'm afraid you'll have to look elsewhere. I left mine in the classroom." And before she could get away, Hannah was caught by the conspirator, who'd sped out of the room. Instead of reprimanding her, the man, whom she now recognised as the object of Audrey McNally's infatuation, the man in the cream robes, said, "Ah, quick girl, give me that." He snatched the quill out of her hand and strode back into the room. "Hand me the parchment." This reminded Hannah. Sylvian, the parchment. What was Sylvian scrawling on that paper? She reached into her pocket and read, "I've seen your quill before, in a book. It was belonging to our Helga Hufflepuff. She enchanted it. It only shows that—" "Ah, what on earth? That girl!" Hannah stepped into the pokey office, and the man in the cream robes turned to reveal his pristine clothes, a mess with ink. "You! Some sort of joke quill? Look at me, this is irreplaceable! Phira, you get back to your students. I'm going to the headmaster, and I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone," he said as he grabbed Hannah by the sleeve and pulled her down the hall. They went down a corridor she'd never noticed before, and would have never since had she not been thrust down it, up a winding staircase and along another hallway to a stone gargoyle inset into a niche into the wall. He pulled out a wand that appeared to be made from such white elm it was almost like marble, and tapped a stone in the wall beside the recess. 1, 2, 3. A few seconds passed. "Oh, come on, you stupid thing." He released his grip on her and slapped the white wand against his hand. A few golden sparks burst out, and he repeated the tapping. This time the wall resounded at each tap with a deep, hollow knock. 1, 2, 3. Chapter 5. Adequate punishment.
I've never been in trouble at school.
The statue turned and the staircase emerged. This was the first time Hannah, or anybody Hannah knew, had been to the headmaster's office. Her heart sank into her stomach and she wondered if she'd be able to speak. Surely they couldn't expel her for such a silly accident. Hogwarts just wasn't like that. Or was it? Their motto was Non titilandum Draco Dormiens, do not wake sleeping dragons. And in honesty, this could not have summed up her situation more accurately. She would start by explaining about Quill and poor Philip Bimble. Surely he wouldn't get in trouble. It was just a gift after all. But then what? She slipped out the scrap of parchment again and read from the start. "I've seen your quill before, in a book. It was belonging to our Helga Hufflepuff. She enchanted it. It only shows things written in truth. Mr. Arafan, our most esteemed guest. I confess I had low hopes for the survival of such brightly coloured livery as an establishment such as ours, the school's primary goal being that of dedication to the training of young witches and wizards. The headmaster straightened a spindly balancing ornament on his desk. This is generally inevitable. Hannah had to work hard to conceal a smile. She had never quite seen this playful side to the Hogwarts headmaster, and she was enjoying the privilege of experiencing it firsthand. As he paused, the air in the room hung. His presence almost seemed to slow down time. Miss West. He looked her in the eye. I have heard whispers that lead me to believe I am in the presence of a Flufflepuff. The words seemed to fit quite comfortably in his mouth, though it felt rather similar to when Hannah's father would try to keep up with the latest slang. Not quite natural. I hope I'm not impolite in saying so. I mean, it only is a compliment. Hannah felt herself relax. If she was going to be expelled, this was certainly an unusual place to start. Much to her comfort, he peered at her over his half-moon spectacles. Flashed her a full smile. Professor Dumbledore, inserted the gentleman, evidently hoping to steer the atmosphere back to his intended dynamic. Not to undermine the friendly nature of your discipline here, but this young tutee has intentionally assaulted a guest tutor at your school. These robes were made specially for me, and I shall never be able to replace them. I must insist on severe punishment. Hannah's heart hung suspended in her chest. If not suspension, then at least a month of physical labour in detention. I quite understand, replied the headmaster. His eyes moved to Mr. Arafan's left hand, which was exactly where Hannah's mind had been. The quill, enchanted to only show truth. This must mean that either the quill's enchantment was faulty, or that the man in the cream robes was lying about something. Namely, his name. Mr. Arafan, I shall ensure that this young witch receives every minute of punishment she deserves. But, Headmaster, started Hannah, and that is final, he concluded. If you would please leave her in my company, I'm sure that between me and her head of house, Miss West will be found an adequate source of labour. And my robes, Professor? Pressed the man. Baking powder has always worked wonders for me. The tall, bright-haired and now red-faced man turned and began to leave the office, but as he did, Dumbledore stopped him. If you wouldn't mind, the man turned attentively on the spot. It is generally the practice here that any faculty in request of a detention slip should sign his or her name. And while you're here, he pulled out a piece of parchment with Hogwarts markings on it and the word detention printed across the top in heavy red letters. Hannah understood that Professor Dumbledore was more than capable of fabricating a detention slip out of the air, but supposed he had stored some hard copies in the drawer of his desk to add a certain gravity to the occasion of issuing one. It certainly had its intended effect. Forgive me, I seem to have mislaid my quill. I suppose you'd have no trouble using this one? He picked up the Hufflepuff feather. And you needn't worry, he added, as he casually dipped the nib into the pot of ink and began to write. The office of the headmaster at Hogwarts is not an environment subject to foul play. Your robes are in no further danger. He turned the parchment around and held the quill out to the man. If time had seemed to slow down at the beginning of the meeting, it had all but come to a halt now. The guest took the quill with a collected trepidation. As he began to write, nothing but scratches came out. He paused. He placed the nib in the ink pot, and the three of them were painted black.
I don't want to break a bunny.
You're gonna have to.
I'll break him in a minute. Let's go.
Okay.
I was going to punch him then. I felt really bad. Sorry, bunny.
So, Quafflecast reading corner. Hannah, impressions so far, thoughts?
I want to know who he is. You know who he says he is. It's
Mm.
fascinating. Well, I get to keep my quill, and also, I love the fact you kept Dumbledore in it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this in a minute, about the setting and the time and all this kind of stuff,
I
but
liked that bit because I was like, oh, Dumbledore.
it's hard with spectacles.
He knows it.
So this is the final chapter, chapter 6. It's a little bit long, so get comfortable.
Okay.
Chapter 6. The other package. That evening, As she walked through the corridors, the school was buzzing with stories. Imposter! Knew it all along! The real Arafan is at least a foot taller. Nobody really knows what happened in the Arctic. I think it was an assassination. Apparently one of the third years, Heather West, the tall, gangly Ravenclaw boy with floppy black hair, caught sight of Hannah. No, it's Hannah. She's friends with my sister. People were now staring at her and whispering as she passed. Once she'd finally arrived back at the common room, she knocked on the barrel. Rat-tat, rat-a-tat. And her memory was jogged. Poor, lovely, thoughtful Philip Bimble. After the hubbub and bustle of the corridors, Hannah was half disappointed when she opened the door and there was no party to greet her, but as she made her way over to the staircase of the boys' dorm, she just caught sight of Anita Cradley, who gave her a nod, and got back to swapping the contents of first year's pockets. She found Philip
Anita Cradley, you're a bad person.
She found Philip at the foot of the stairs and threw her arms around him. You're the kindest, most thoughtfulest person I think I know. You're a true Hufflepuff, no matter what Anita says. Philip smiled. She wasn't sure if he was on the brink of tears or just very happy, but whatever it was, it turned into a yawn, and she realised she was also very tired. I'll write you a story for your birthday with my quill. About what? Replied the curious boy. Whatever you like, she offered. Well, I like potion class. I'll write you the most brilliant Hufflepuff potion adventure for you, and I'll give it to you in March. He was quietly bothered by the ability she had to remember his birthday. When, try as he might, he was never going to remember hers with any accuracy or reliability, but he decided to let it be and muttered a shy, sincere, "Thank you." Quietly very excited and outwardly very sleepy, he yawned again. When she finally got up to her bed, there was a grey package, that was the other package, and a note lying at the bottom of it. As she sat, she recognised Sylvian's handwriting immediately. Dear Hannah, I thought it might be worth me to mention I spoke to Professor Binns after our class and explained what had happened with your quill about its enchantment. I hope you don't mind, but since you left your workbook on the table, we tried to see what part had caused the problem, and he noticed it was when you were writing about Nefertiti learning magic. We have sent an inquiry to the Egyptology department at the London Museum of Magical Artifacts. I have been looking into the life of Nefertiti Queen, and for my money she shows tale-telling signs of being a squib. I suspect the historians will find out this is the truth. Who knows, your quill may change the history books for real. I also must tell you I've been invited to a meeting with the Hungarian ministry for a place on their junior oral education scheme. It's an option for national service for boys with high academic scores. You're the first to be told. See you tomorrow. Sildobag. Hannah folded it up neatly and placed it on her bedside, beside a muggled Christmas card her mum and dad had sent her from back home. They were both magical and had studied at Hogwarts, but just seemed to have a thing for muggle cards. Hannah didn't blame them, she rather encouraged it. She leant over to see what was in the beautiful package. It was perfectly wrapped. She suspected it probably wasn't Sylvian's handiwork, and it was too tidy to be an owl delivery. She opened it curiously. It was a brand new pair of robes. Much more vibrant than her shabby old set, and more essentially not covered with black ink. It fit so smartly. There was a card inside the pocket, which revealed it to be from Professor Dumbledore.
Aww.
Dear Miss West, I was in two minds about lending you some baking powder from my store, but after the struggle of cleaning up my own robe, I decided you might just as well do with a new pair. Professor A.P.W.B. Dumbledore, O.M. P.S. I was rather intrigued by your peculiar black and yellow quill. I've seen one like it before, in the possession of a student and a prolific young witch during my time as Transfigurations Professor, who went by the name Sprout. You have proved your house founder's virtues today, and I'm sure great things lie ahead of you in the name of loyalty, patience, truth, and dedication, though much, I am sure, you have already achieved. Keep on badgering. The end! Keep on badgering. There you go, Hannah.
Oh, it's so good! Oh, Professor Dumbledore!
So my thinking was, I was like, sorry, there's a little annex to it. If you just want to watch the video and hear the story, then you can switch off now. But little behind the scenes. I wanted it to be kind of not specific about what time it was, whether it was there while Harry and Hermione and Ron were there, and so the only teachers who are in it are Binns, who's a ghost, so he could be around whenever, and Dumbledore, who was Professor for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So this could be before, or it could be after, spoiler alert, but I feel like it's sometimes the past. It could be, it's kind of timeless. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about Harry Potter is they don't have mobile phones and iPads or whatever. You know, there's no real sense of time other than the stuff he does, the jobs that Mr. Dursley has, that kind of stuff. But it's essentially timeless. So I wanted that, but I was like, I wanted to lead all the way up to the headmaster without mentioning the word Dumbledore, and then for you to go. I mean, my impression kind of gives it away, but then he looks at you over this Hartman spectacles and goes.
That made me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Isn't he brilliant? Hannah West in the story is no different to Hannah West in real life.
Thank you!
You're welcome. We will
I hope
continue to
Sylvie
read.
got into his aura thing.
Oh, he did.
Maybe eventually me and Philip will get together, who knows?
Philip Bimble, yeah, I don't know. I think he's a little bit scatty, but you never know. Alright, well, there you are. Not a rather unorthodox video, but I hope you enjoyed them both. And write down in the comments anything that you liked, or maybe send us some of your favourite Harry Potter hand fiction. That's what this is called, it's hand fiction.
Oh, it's hand fiction!
I accidentally said that. Your favourite Harry Potter fan fiction, and we'll read it. So, catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye!
Keep on badgering.